Now to Turkey, where the trial has begun over the deaths of a German-Turkish family who were fatally poisoned by pesticides in their hotel 5 months ago. Several defendants are facing long prison sentences for alleged negligence leading to the deaths. Relatives are pushing for answers and accountability. Our correspondent, Hahn, reports.
Yilmaz Bocek's grief still runs deep. He has lost his son, his daughter-in-law, and his 2 young grandchildren, Kadir and Masal.
My son had his own little family, his own small world. His family, his children meant everything to him. They were happy, a very happy family.
In November 2025, their holiday in Istanbul turned into a tragedy. The family from Hamburg checked into this hotel in the Fatih district. Just days later, all 4 were dead.
You can't just forget it. No matter what you do, it stays with you. You can't just forget it overnight. That's simply not possible.
After a day of sightseeing, the family went to hospital with nausea and vomiting. Doctors first suspected food poisoning, but forensic findings later revealed something far more serious. They had been exposed to highly toxic phosphine gas released during pest control at the hotel. Experts say it can be fatal, even in small concentrations.
Aluminum phosphide is one of the most toxic agricultural pesticides. It's a licensed product used in warehouses, ships, and grain silos to control rodents and other pests. There is absolutely no permit or license for its use in any area where people live.
Now, Turkish prosecutors are seeking prison sentences of up to 22 years on charges of causing death through gross negligence for most of the 6 defendants, including the hotel owner and 2 officials from the pest control company, which prosecutors say was operating without a valid license. Yilmaz Bocek and other relatives have traveled from Germany to attend the hearing and demand answers.
Our hope is that the defendants receive the punishment they deserve. But beyond that, we want this to set a precedent. People who endanger public health should face serious consequences in Turkey and beyond. And others should be deterred from doing the same.
The case has raised wider concerns in Turkey, a country that welcomes millions of tourists every year, and where similar incidents have sparked debate about safety standards. Authorities say they have taken action since the Bocek family's poisoning, including stricter inspections of hotels, tighter regulations, and closer monitoring of pest control companies. But experts say rules alone are not enough.
The relevant government agencies and ministries must enforce the regulations they have already established. This requires strict oversight, strong control mechanisms, and sufficient staffing. Only then can such illegal activities be effectively prevented.
For Yilmaz Bocek, this is about more than regulations. It's about loss. No one can bring his loved ones back, he says, but he wants justice, so that no other family has to go through what his has endured.
Let's get more on this tragic case with our correspondent Dorian Jones in Istanbul. Welcome, Dorian. So what did we learn on day 1 of this trial?
Well, all the 6 defendants are denying all charges against them, which include culpable homicide, with prosecutors demanding up to 22 years in jail. But despite the denials, we have heard some quite disturbing testimonies from the defendants. The owner of the pesticide company, blamed for these deaths, admitted that they didn't have a valid license. He said that he was applying for a renewal of the license, but blamed a backlog because of the COVID epidemic. He also admitted he had absolutely no knowledge about the use of pesticides. He said he was just the owner and he had employed people with expertise. But he did admit that many of the employees that he was using didn't receive any formal training, and this caused quite exasperation from the senior judge, who said to him, "Didn't you realize that this was a tragedy waiting to happen?" The defendant didn't answer. We also heard from one of the people that administered the pesticide. He said that he only had 20 minutes of oral training before starting to work, which also caused a great deal of concern in the courtroom. And we also heard from the hotel owner. Now, he said that he wasn't even at the hotel when this incident happened. He said he found the pesticide company by Googling and said it had a very high star rating. And he said, how was he to know that it didn't have a license? So he's saying that he is not responsible, and he said he questioned even whether it was the pesticide that was responsible for the deaths, claiming that the room was sealed for a couple of days. But given all of these statements, I think it has fueled a great deal of concern over how such a tragedy was allowed to happen, and will cause growing concern over the situation facing the country over hotel pest control.
All of the defendants deny the charges, but there have been more deaths linked to this case.
Well, what we understand is that 2 tourists who were also in the hotel fell very ill, but subsequently recovered around the same period. But prior to this incident, a few months before, 2 teenagers died in another hotel in Istanbul, and the father was very sick, and that is again being blamed on the misuse of pesticides in the hotel. That has a separate trial. 5 defendants are set to stand trial, and that's expected to occur in the coming weeks. So this will feed into this feeling that there is a widespread problem rather than an aberration. That what many critics say is that there is a systematic problem in the country at the moment over the use of extremely dangerous pesticides in controlling hotel bugs.
Right, and this case is being widely viewed, and indeed prompted calls for tighter controls on the use of chemicals in hotels. And what movement has there been on that?
Well, the authorities said that they have tightened up the controls on the use of pesticides, although one of the chemicals used in the Bocek deaths is claimed that it shouldn't have been used in hotels, given the fact that it is so toxic. In fact, the chemical is apparently even used in chemical warfare, underlining how toxic this chemical is. But even standard pesticides are extremely dangerous, and that's why there are very strict controls on the way they're used, and also the requirement that people that use them are officially and properly trained. Now, the question that many critics say, despite the authorities saying that they are tightening up the controls, is that these controls aren't being enforced properly. There are plenty of very stringent controls on the use of pesticides in hotels, equivalent to what you would find in many European countries, but critics say that they are not being properly enforced. If the controls are enforced properly, these tragic incidents should not happen.
Right, Germany, where the family came from, has quite a significant Turkish population. It's being viewed very closely here. How is it being viewed there in Turkey?
Well, it has to be said that given the really heavy news flow in this country, the country is still reeling from last week's 2 successive school shootings, that it's been very much overshadowed by these latest tragic events. But it has to be said that the government and the authorities are very keen that this trial that receives especially international coverage, because they are fully aware of the potential damage this could be done to Turkey's tourism industry. It's one of the major sources of income for this country, and also crucially as an employment for the country. So they realise that there is potentially very damaging if the safety of hotels are in question. They want to give a message from this current court case that they take this matter very seriously, and it's a message to also other pesticide companies and local hotels all across the country that if such an incident happens again, they will meet with severe punishment. And I think that is the key message why they will be looking for this court case to receive as much coverage, especially abroad, and that's why prosecutors are pushing for very severe sentences in this case.
Okay, thanks for that, Dorian. DW correspondent Dorian Jones in Istanbul.